Hey, Jim.
Oh, hey, Steve.
What you doing?
Well, I am looking for an audio clip from a movie that I can use to help tease this week's topic.
Okay.
Hey, I found one. Hey, Steve.
Hey, Jim.
Check out this Mitch Miller album.
I'd buy that for $1.
Welcome once again to Two Guys Talking About Records, a vinyl community podcast brought to you each week by, two guys talking about records, and we're part of the vinyl community.
We're still waiting for someone to give us money for a commercial, and then we'll say, brought to you by Mitch Miller.
There we go. I'm so old now for Discogs, but that's not going to happen.
Yes.
Well, my name's Jim, and I am a record store owner.
And I'm Steve, a record collector. I was just thinking about you, Discogs. Brought to you by Discogs.
Probably not this week. So lots of great stuff to talk about this week. We've got a couple of news items we want to cover, and we want to dig into the main topic, that being the dollar bins, dollar bins, and how they're really kind of becoming a scarcity.
Kind of like the dodo bird.
Going extinct.
Yes.
But still fun. Well, I don't know if dodo birds were fun, but dollar bins are fun.
I'm sure they were.
Could be. But there is a couple of other things we want to get to as well. This really cool Led Zeppelin story I want to touch on and talk about Record Store Day, Black Friday, for just a moment or two. But first, as we always do, let's talk about additions to the collections.
Yes. Yeah. Last week, actually, I bought all. I had, as Jim would say, I had kind of a quiet week. So I did. I mean, my wife goes, wow, nothing's really coming in the mail anymore, is it? I said, well, that's just me being, fiscally responsible.
I've heard tell that the U.S. Postal Service has to have two people on your route.
Yeah. They kind of know. They know what's coming. But, I found these here last week. And you had that nice drop of blues albums, quite a few blues albums. Yep. And I picked up the Son House and J.D. Short, Blues from the Mississippi Delta. Came out in 1968. Yep. So since it's Son House, it's kind of folk blues. So a little quieter guitar, but it's a fun listen. Is it a go-to? Well, I'm kind of more electric blues. Yep. But still it's Son House, so why not? And then you had the Bootsy Collins Player of the Year in 1978. And, of course, it's Bootsy, baby.
Yeah.
And so, now the sunglasses, someone had taken them out on the inside. Yeah. Can you believe someone did that?
Well,
eventually I got to find me a cover that has all of that. But it was just fun. Bootsy Collins is great. I love Parliament. And he's just a fun guy. But the big one was Captain Beefheart and his Magic Band. The band I don't get, and I've tried to get, but I think this is his first album, Safe as Milk from 1967. It actually sounds good. It makes sense. This is before drugs or whatever. He went way off, maybe before he met Frank Zappa. I don't know. But the music, it's very easy to listen to, and actually very good music. Oh, extremely accessible. Yeah. Yes, that's the word. Very accessible. And I like that. I used to have that, and someone that sent that to me because I was going off on Trout Mask Replica on a video, and they go, here, you need to listen to this one. They go, wow, that really is pretty good.
And I'm with you there, and I like Frank Zappa stuff, and I haven't really given Beefheart much of a try. I probably should. Especially something like that would be a little more easy to digest.
Yes.
But for Zappa, there are certain albums that I love. I love a few Frank Zappa albums. And then there's others that I just scratch my head going, what am I listening to?
Yeah, I still struggle with him, but yes, I get that.
Maybe we could be schooled otherwise.
Exactly. Well, talk about yours. What do you got?
Well, I had a light week. And it's even lighter because one of them... Okay, as a record collector, I know you've gone through this. I go through this, and probably some of our listeners who are collectors, especially longtime collectors, go through this as well. We struggle maintaining the size of the collection, but there's also some albums that we get that we're excited about, and listening to them. I haven't heard this in a long time. I'm going to put this in my collection, and then you don't go back to it for months and months and months. And when you see it again, you're like, oh yeah, I wonder why I haven't listened to that. And then I decide. But on the record store side of me, if there's something that, it doesn't entice me over a period of time, I'll just put it out on the shelf.
Mm-hmm.
So along comes a nice copy of the Blues Magoos and their Psychedelic Lollipop, their debut album from 1966. I went, oh yeah, I thought I had that. I didn't. I'd gotten rid of it. I listened to it and I thought, man, this is some great early psych rock. I don't want to call it bubblegum psych because it's not quite there. They were part of that first psych wave. They're from New York, I believe.
Okay.
Mid-'60s. I put them in line with like the Trogs or something like that. Not the Trogs' big hits. They're real more gritty garage rock sound.
Yeah.
And that's what the Blues Magoos are in Psychedelic Lollipop. Some great stuff, some covers on there as well. But like I said, I've had it in my collection at least 2 times before and have gotten rid of it 2 times before. So maybe the third time will be a charm for this one. We'll see. I mean, it's in really nice shape. And Discogs, it's no slouch. I mean, in used condition, they're in the $20-some-odd range,
Yeah.
but it goes up, in super condition, it'll go up into the, $70, $75
Sure.
or so. Those are the Discogs prices, mind you.
It is a classic.
So it is, and I like it, so we'll try it one more time and see what happens.
Yeah.
The other one, and I'm more excited about because I was unaware, never heard of this guy before. The artist is named Don Farden, Fardon, and the album is I've Paid My Dues. And it's a very interesting cover because the artist is standing amongst what looks to be some riot police from the UK in the 60s. So you know what that means. It's a lot of Northern Ireland and British. Well, the history goes deep there. Mm-hmm. So I thought that this was going to be some sort of real harsh protest album.
Yeah.
From Northern Ireland, because one of the songs on there is called Belfast Boy. And Farden, after reading about this, he is a British singer-songwriter. He's not someone who's from Northern Ireland, so that kind of threw me for a loop. And then I listened to this, and the very first track, Belfast Boy, kicks in where I'm envisioning some pre-punk, heavy psych that's talking about protest. The song is about an Irish football player named Georgie Best.
Okay.
So that's what the song is about, and it's really misleading on the cover.
Yeah.
But the song itself, the Belfast Boy about this British soccer player, is just psych funk. And it's got this real heavy synthesizer sound for 70 is when the album came out. Really interesting and intriguing sound. I played a little clip for you too, and it's really neat. Then the album kind of veers off into this, British folk. But then it picks up into some garage rock sounds. He does a couple of covers on there. Gimme Gimme Good Lovin' from Spencer Davis, which is a great cover. And there's another one on there called Hudson Bay, which is, from Canada, a real cool, almost psych folk tune again. Mm-hmm. But then they get a few softer ones on there as well. So this is all over the map, and I'm not on the fence because I really like that first song. And it's such a powerful start to the album that's going to go in the collection.
Yeah, that first song did sound good, but when he goes folk, it's like, oh.
So, yeah, Don Farden, Belfast Boy. We are working, and I'm trying real hard to put some of these sound samples that we can't include in the podcast for copyright reasons. We'll put them into a Spotify playlist and share that on our Facebook page, or share videos to these specifically on our Facebook page. So if you're on Facebook, just look for Two Guys Talking About Records, and we can interact and probably post some of this music that we talk about there. Makes it a little easier.
Yeah, it does. That will be helpful. I just have to remember.
We don't want to anger the copyright police.
Yes, exactly right.
They'll come after us. Okay, let's cover a couple of quick news items. The first and foremost, we are, as of the recording of this, less than 2 weeks away from Record Store Day Black Friday. And the excitement is there, but it's not quite the same level this year. I'm not feeling that from the record store side of things. A lot of folks are asking about it. There's a few titles they're excited about, but nowhere near what we were in April or Black Fridays past.
Was there a Taylor Swift? There's no Taylor Swift.
There's no Taylor Swift.
Well, there we have it right there. There is no one camped out yet in front of the store.
No.
It's unbelievable. Yeah, last year there was definitely a couple that had huge buzz, and you don't hear that. Now, I had a few titles, but I would say there's probably less this year than I've found in other years, and maybe just because of the newer music that's coming out on there.
It could be just a generational thing for us.
Yeah, it very well could be. Was there a Doors release?
A Dwarves, no, but
Doors.
there is a Doors. Yes, there is a Doors.
Oh, well,
holiday
thank
theme.
God. Well, then, okay, it's Record Store Day. It's perfect.
I thought you said Dwarves because I just did Dwarves. There's a new Dwarves
I
album
saw
coming
that,
out
yes.
next week as it is. But on the Record Store Day Black Friday news side of things, I got an email from our distributor saying here is a list of titles that have been canceled. So if you were counting on some of these, keep counting because they're not coming for Black Friday, and there was no information as to whether or not they would be pushed back as a standalone release or pushed back even further to Record Store Day in April. We'll have to wait and see. But on that list are the Gil Scott-Heron Winter in America, both the CD and the LP. Why are they putting a CD out on Record Store Day is beyond me. The Scarlett Johansson, Anywhere I Lay My Head, the actress, and that one caught me by surprise. I didn't realize that she had albums out there, but there you go. Probably, let's see, Missing Persons Live in 81 has also been canceled, as has the LA Guns Live in Boston. Now, the one that I think we were initially looking forward to, I was as well, was the King Missile Happy Hour release. That one has been kiboshed.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, but
That wasn't the one I was looking forward to.
no.
There
Well,
was another one.
which one?
Well, keep going.
Okay. The one I saved for last?
Yeah.
This is devastating news to you, I know, and
I
to
know.
many of our listeners. But the Pauly Shore and the Krusties Crustopolis Volume 1 has been canceled for Black Friday.
Why bother? Why bother coming? It's over.
Oh, and we joked about that. And if you're a Pauly Shore fan and you'd like to take us to task, please do so. But, the stuff I heard online was just horrible. Oh, my goodness. I like Pauly Shore as an actor, but he gets old quick as a musician. It doesn't even rise to the level of Beefheart and Zappa.
Maybe the people in charge of Record Store Day listen to it finally and go, wait, how did this get in
What
there?
are we thinking, buddy? So, if you were looking forward to those titles, they have been no longer included on the Record Store Day, and they're even scrubbed from the Record Store Day website as well. So they're MIA from there.
Okay.
But lots of other good stuff, and
Yeah.
as we get closer, we'll get more excited about Black Friday, I think.
I guess that'll be next week, won't it?
Will be next. Holy cow, will that be next
Yeah,
week?
blows your mind, doesn't it?
So the other big news, speaking of blowing your mind, and this came out of absolutely nowhere last week, just right around the 52nd anniversary of the release of Led Zeppelin 4, this story drops that they have discovered the identity of the individual on the cover of Led Zeppelin 4.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I never even knew that was a thing, and I always just assumed that it was a painting that they found from somewhere. So this popped up. I'm sure you saw it in your news feed somewhere along the line, but if you haven't read it, this was very cool.
Yeah, I just amazed how someone's writing doing a book.
It was a
on-
research fellow. Yeah, they were going through some old photo albums. Yeah, and the guy who found it, he was
Ernest Farmer.
there we go. He was doing some research for an upcoming exhibition at a museum, and he discovered this photo album, and the guy was a Led Zeppelin fan, and when he found the photo, he's like, wait a minute.
Yeah, actually, Ernest Farmer was the one that took the photo. He died in
That's- okay.
1944, and so he's the one that found this guy to take the photo.
And the guy in the photo has been identified based on some notations at the bottom of that picture. So according to the article, the stooped figure carrying that batch of sticks is likely to be someone named Lot Long, also known as Lot Longyear, and he was a thatcher in the 1800s in a small town of Mere in northwestern Wiltshire. And a thatcher, by the way, is someone who installs traditional thatched roofing.
Or eventually becomes a prime minister.
There you go as well. But so that's why those sticks. And now Led Zeppelin 4, technically speaking, according to Discogs, is untitled.
Yeah.
It's labeled as untitled. It's their fourth album. It's been referred to as Zoso. I've heard it referred to as Picking Up Sticks before as an album. Maybe we should toss in Thatch.
Yeah,
Thatch as an alternate album title for Led Zeppelin 4.
Though I sure like the name, Lot Long. Hey, what's your name? My name is Lot Long. I mean, that could be work in Hollywood even. Wow.
So the story goes, though, that Jimmy Page and Robert Plant have both kind of embellished this, but the story for years had been that Robert Plant found a painting of this photo, but he didn't know it was a photo. He just found this painting in a secondhand store on his way to a recording session and thought, well, that might make a cool album cover, mate.
Yeah.
And history was made. But I don't think Plant would have known that it had its originations in a photograph somewhere. He just found the painting.
Yeah. How many of us just gazed upon that over and over? Because it was one of those iconic album covers.
Oh, yeah.
That just grabbed your attention. Absolutely nothing on it, no writing, but you just go, wow, what is this? Who is this? And it was just neat looking.
It was a mystery that we didn't know was a mystery.
Yes.
And now
Yes.
it has been. Now, what I'm waiting for is for them to identify the subject matter in the original photo from the inside gatefold cover.
Oh,
that wizard.
Yeah. There we go. Yes.
I tend to think that is more artistic interpretation than anything whatsoever. So that's a very cool story. Onward we go now. Let's talk just a couple of seconds about Discogs as we head into our main topic for the day, that being the disappearing dollar den. Last week we talked a little bit about Discogs, as we have been for the past few weeks, and the fee increase and how that's affecting a lot of sellers. But you've got another take on this now that you had brought in from a viewer.
Yeah, I posted a video on Tuesday where, I kind of did my own, talked about this. And, it really, as I was thinking Discogs, it is coming through, as a store owner, what this means and how it hurts the profit margin. But someone, one of the listeners, they mentioned to me, well, if I bring my collection to a record store, what am I going to get for it? And I mean, it's a great point for a record store to make money. You're not going to give you, well, that's the Discogs price. I mean, everyone comes in asking for it, right? I mean, everyone, it's high ends on this, so, take $2 off of that. No one really gets exactly what they're going to get on this. So as this person brought up, as a collector to try to sell, Discogs is really good. The fee doesn't really matter because they're trying to move their collection and they're still going to make more money. The thing is, if you're trying to move that collection fast, a store allows you to get that space opened right away.
Yep.
Discogs is going to take time. It's going to take some effort. But if you have that time, if you're retired or just something you want to do on weekends, it can be really good, and the fee isn't really going to bother you. It just comes down to this fact that pricing in most record stores is based upon Discogs, and so when they add in that fee, when that fee's put onto that price, now all prices are higher within that store on what we're selling, and so Discogs is going to reflect that, and you start to think, wow, this record, look how valuable it's getting. Well, is that just inflated because of those fees? And then that just keeps going.
Well, I have to admit, I had not thought of it from that angle because, well, I'm a record store, and so I think of it from the record store angle. But although I did sell on Discogs way prior to us opening the record store, but that's been years and years. So, well, I can see the point, and it's valid. And Discogs, as we keep saying, they're free to do what they want to do. It's their business model. It's how they want to raise capital. It's how they want to earn their living, so to speak.
Yeah. I also, I think about this as I head to the golden years of retirement. And I think about, okay, so I have this large collection. I need to do something with it. Do I start selling it off? If so, to get onto Discogs, for instance, I got these rare Zambian, Zamrock albums.
Yeah.
It isn't like I can bring them to you and you're going to go, wow, I really want to get those in here. It's
all well and good, Steve. It says it's $300. I don't know.
And they're going to sit there for the rest of their life.
Yeah.
But it's so, I think about Discogs. What worries me now is just, how do you get someone to buy? Because when you go on there, you have all those fake accounts. And so as a new person trying to start on Discogs, how do you get people to, first off, believe you're real? And that you're there, and then to build that trust, and it seems to me more difficult all the time. Yep. I mean, when I buy, I'm looking at, well, this guy has over 3,000 reviews, even more. Must be good. Oh, that person only has 10. Yep. I don't think so.
And as a buyer and or seller with that rating system, you can set your settings to not even see stuff. For example, as a seller, I can set it to anybody who has less than a 90% or 95% buyer rating won't even see the stuff if I set it so, just to avoid that kind of buyer.
Okay.
So it's tricky, and I don't have an answer for you on that other than, you do your best to try to eke it out until you get that 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 sales, and then you get a positive rating, and you go from there. But I agree, there's a lot of fraud happening on that site still too.
Yes, and that just it makes it tough for someone new to get on there, or someone new that's buying that really doesn't understand it and just goes, "That's a heck of a good price. I'm jumping at it."
Yep. Well, bears watching, and so we'll keep thinking about Discogs. I'm not selling on there yet, again, but I don't know. Things might change after the first of the year. We'll see where things take my brain at that point.
I wound up buying a couple more albums from it, but just stuff that I was looking, man, I really miss having that back in my collection. Yeah. And I see them, again, once in a while, it comes into the record store, but it goes so quick and fast, and can't get it in time.
Side note to that, I mean, should you ever sell, the fact that you've got a very good positive buyer rating might help, because as a buyer, you can go in and look at that seller's history, and you'll also see their buying history. Okay. So you'll see that they have been in Discogs for X amount of years. So it's just a little more research on the buyer's part to find out who's trying to sell stuff.
Wow. So I should be buying a whole bunch more to keep pumping that up to show this guy really is good.
Hey,
okay.
Look at this.
Well, I'm going to mention that to the wife just so she understands why I'm doing this. I'm not doing it to get more records. I'm doing it so I can sell them later.
It's all about the futures.
Yes.
Speaking of futures, one of the things that we, again, like to talk about is the raising cost of records, especially in record stores. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily the new stuff, but with the used, we've just mentioned a couple of minutes ago that Discogs could give a false impression of a value of a record. Now, I'm a little more confined. My record store traversing is rather limited because I'm in one every day, and once in a while I will venture out. My Canadian trip several months back, I did go to a few record stores there. But you visit a lot more than I could ever hope to. Yeah. And you've noticed something.
Yeah, the dollar bins are, I'm finding them less and less, and they've turned into $5 bins. And I have seen that in numerous locations. I have seen gigantic $5 rooms. I mean, it'll be a whole room just $5. And you go in there, and it is basically the dollar records, but now we're going for $5. Now, I know there's no way someone brings in a collection with their Mitch Miller, and they're going, well, we're going to sell that for $5, so we're going to give you $2.50 or something like that. You're still going to get nothing on it for $1, but it's just these prices are now jumping up, and it's like, are dollar bins going out of existence? I know they're still there, but even Goodwill, Salvation Army, that they've raised up the prices. The dollar isn't necessarily out there as much anymore. And maybe that's why even some of these others are thinking, well, do we really need a dollar bin?
That's an odd question, because as an owner, it's imperative to me to have a dollar bin in there. There are some records, and we joke about Mitch Miller, but I'm looking back now at a box full of polka records, and 6 boxfuls of classical music that does not sell. If it's not selling for me right now for $1, how in the heck am I supposed to get a $5 tag on some of those? That's not going to happen.
Yeah, especially maybe someone new to collecting that doesn't know about it. They've never seen a dollar bin or something. They go in there, whoa, this is a good price. In fact, I saw that. I was in it was a store. $5 was the lowest, and the owner's going, yep, these are $5. Man, they sell. They're really good. And the customers looking in there and finding this stuff. I go, well, $1, But they found some stuff. They were excited. It was only $5. It's only $5, and they were buying some stuff. And he goes, yeah, I go through a lot of that stuff because they, when they look at the price of the other records, suddenly $5 seems to be inexpensive.
I think we've called this before record store PTSD. Yeah. Because I see this here. In fact, it's odd that we're talking about this. Just yesterday, I had a fairly new customer. He's been in a couple times. They spent some time in the dollar room. He and the couple. They came out with a small handful, 4 or 5 records, and he actually said, you probably could be charging more for these. One of them was a classical box set with 3 or 4 records in there. Is this really $1? Yep, it is. Take it out of my space. It's $1. But to hear him say, you could be charging more for these was kind of neat. But at the same time, it's like, that's not my purpose. I'm just here to move some records out of the way. So that's kind of cool, but people don't expect it, I think,
Yeah.
everywhere anymore.
So you didn't tell that when he said that, go, you know what, you're right, that's $3.
It's now $3.
Yeah, thank you.
Well,
That was a great idea.
A lot of times people cannot fathom the fact that when they'll come out with a Reader's Digest box set with 12 records in it.
Mm-hmm.
How much is this? That's $1. No, really? I'm like, no, it's $1. I've got, piles of them back there. Now, for some record stores that are getting rid of their dollar bins, for example, I'm sure it's a space issue.
Mm-hmm.
They've got a limited amount of space. They're paying rent in a building. Does one room or one table or one crate of space being taken up equal the amount of money they need to bring in to help pay for everything else?
I also wonder if when people bring in these collections that have a lot of stuff that's just very hard to sell, like a polka album or something, if they just take that, don't even bother putting it in that $5 bin, bring it to a Goodwill or something and just drop it off just to get it out of their hair.
Oh, I'm sure. I am absolutely sure that that's happened. That happens a lot. I have not gotten to that point yet, but what I'll do from time to time here is, I do a 3-for-1 sale on the dollar.
Yeah.
And people still, this box is 33 cents. Yes, it is. Take them out of there because I have got, not only, you've seen the back room here. It's kind of a nightmare.
Yep.
A lot of that stuff is dollar bin stuff waiting to come forward. I guess I'm a little fortunate in the fact that we've got enough space to hold a dollar room, and then I've got enough space to store some. But then I've got a storage unit off-site that is still filled with even about 4,000 or 5,000 more records waiting to be moved into that dollar area. So maybe I'm lucky, unlike other record stores, that I have the ability to not only store but to have on site some dollar room stuff, whereas maybe their real estate is better used for $5 stuff.
Yeah. When I had a lot of room for my collection and I was really buying for quantity, not quality. I remember I would go to one over in Bay City, Electric Kish, when they were downtown. And underneath his bins, he had all these crates of records, So, you have to sit on the floor, but they were dollar records. And I would spend a couple hours in there just flipping and pulling stuff. And, come on, this huge pile of records. They're all $1, just this is great. Then you have to try to get them listened or go, well, okay, maybe not in the best shape. But at that time, it didn't matter. Mm-hmm. It was just, this is a great deal, and it's what I want, and that's how I wanted to collect. Now, I wouldn't necessarily, I know I wouldn't do that because I've changed the way I collect. But for a lot of people, it is about, hey, this is fantastic. So if they don't know better and think $5 is a great price, well, so be it. That's great. They're going to buy it. But the dollar bin was just more exciting. $1.
And it's a great way to get people into collecting too. You think of somebody in high school, for example, or just out of high school, or a college student who may not have the best job and they're struggling a little bit financially. Can they spend $5 on a record as easily as they can justify $1 or $2 on a record that they might not know about, but it's part of that discovery process that you talked about?
Yeah, there was this record store was in a little town out in western Michigan, and I was one of those where there's a record store here, really, I just would not have expected it. But it's two retired guys, and they had a ton of records. Their main bins they had really set up into $10 and $7. Everything was going for the same price. You get in there and there's like 15 of the exact same album, and of course then they alphabetized by first name. So I really, and for those of you that like it that way, that's great. I can't stand it.
That's the Discogs alphabetization.
Yes, it is. It's like, oh boy. But this was another case where in the back room, it was a gigantic back room, and they had the $5 albums. They didn't do a dollar bin again, and they had every kind of, the stuff that you wouldn't see in a normal dollar bin, but it was all $5. There was some better stuff. For instance, I found a Molly Hatchet I'd been looking for, $5 back there. I think for them, this is just an easy way for pricing. To have an idea of, okay, everything, $5, kind of like cheeseburger, Pepsi from Saturday Night Live. There we go, $5, or 777. So mathematically speaking, this was easy for them. They didn't deal with new albums or anything like that, and they didn't have anything that was like the rarities. So, they just made it easy for themselves.
Well, let me give a little insight onto, at least from my perspective, how something would be determined to be a dollar bin record versus something that may be $2 or $3.
Yeah. Which a $2 to $3 record's rare to find, but you have a lot of $2 to $3 records that, again, would be $5 records.
But what I do when records come in, if it is, and I'll pick on Mitch Miller again, or Arthur Fiedler, or any type of older honky-tonk country that does not sell, other than things like Willie Nelson, Johnny Cash, Dolly Parton, those do. But there is a determining factor as to what, for me at least, constitutes a dollar bin record. And that is, something that's just so common, that doesn't sell. Let's pick on pop for a second, Anne Murray. I've got a stack of Anne Murray that's probably an arm's length deep that nobody wants to buy. So sometimes I'll put records in the dollar room where the vinyl is absolutely perfect. But because it's just something that there's no demand for whatsoever, it's going to go back there. That doesn't mean that I would put a $5 on it, because I think it stands even less of a chance of moving than it does for $1. Now, in addition to that, let's say that there's something more popular like the Molly Hatchet that you mentioned. If, for example, that record is damaged or a little more well-loved or worn, I feel that constitutes to be a dollar record. I don't want to get rid of it, but I can't in good conscience charge $5 for something that is going to be very, very noisy.
I saw that with a younger shopper when I was in here a few weeks back. You had Santana's first album back there on the dollar bin, and they were so excited. This is unbelievable. You have that. There it was for $1. Obviously, it wasn't, it was not flawless, but they were excited to get that.
And that, to me, is where the importance of a dollar bin really, really plays. Because if you can get somebody who's young and starting their collection excited about this or discovering new music, they're going to be more likely to come back and say, okay, well, I spent $1 on this one before. Let me look through the rest of his Santana stuff that's in the $5 to $6 to $7 range to see if there's something I'd like. Or maybe the new Santana album that's $25 or $40 nowadays.
Yeah.
That will lead them in, I guess, kind of like a gateway, leading them into bigger and better things in their collections.
Called drugs.
Some of the dealers are saying, hey, buddy, come on back to the dollar room.
Yeah, that's right. Here you go. Dollar, get that. Then come over here. You come back in a week.
Now, I have also been known here to blow out some things from the dollar room because I'm trying to make some space and put some more stuff in there. Because let's face it, the records come in continually, and 90% of the time there are things that are for the dollar room, and I don't pay a great deal for them. I try to be fair with people when they bring stuff like that in, but I have to be honest and say this is not going anywhere. I cannot give you any kind of premium. I can give you a little bit, but I bring them in anyway because I don't want them to be thrown out.
Yeah.
But I'll blow stuff out, as I mentioned, with a 3-for-1 sale from time to time back there. But more fun is I do this little mystery bag. And I know a lot of record stores do mystery bags or mystery boxes, but I'll take 10 records from the dollar room, put them in a bag, and put a $1 price tag on it, and then put them out. I think every 3 or 4 months I'll do a batch of them. But to make it exciting, and this is really kind of more the gambling side of it, if you will, I'll put a sealed new record somewhere in that entire batch. But folks dig it, and they have fun with it. They bring their kids in. They like picking stuff out. And so what if they get 10 records that are not going to be something they're ever going to listen to? It's a fun thing to do, and for me, it helps move stuff out.
Well, a few days ago when I was going through there, when you do that again, the Barbra Streisand with Barry Gibbs album, you will be able to put that in a lot of bags because that was a lot of...
You found a bunch of them.
Oh, my God, there was a lot there. I guess it was just not a big deal out here.
No, and that's really, I think, kind of a regional thing, too.
Yeah.
You would think... We're in Midland, Michigan, by the way, based here. We are a... how would you describe the town? There's going to be some culture here.
Yeah.
Good way to put it.
Some. Yeah.
We do.
Yeah.
Center for the Arts has got some great stuff going on. And I do sell some classical music, but I just don't sell a lot of it. The classic rock is where it is for us for whatever reason. But the classical music just does not move. But it's important music. I think everybody should have a few classical albums in their collection, if only to have a little bit of that culture and that history, listening to some Beethoven or Mozart or Bach or something like that.
if you dig into it and you really sit and listen, you will find a lot of beauty. You will also find a lot of riffs and stuff used within your regular hard rock kind of stuff. It's really, really amazing. Even Kiss uses stuff from classical music.
So I think that the idea that folks can discover something cheaply, and I'm not going to send our dollar room. It's not going to go away here, at least. But again, I understand why some record stores are not doing that anymore, and it's a spatial issue, and it's a money issue. But for me, for whatever reason, I'm thinking that this is still going to be an important part of what we offer here.
Well, it gets shopped. I mean, time and time again, people go back there and they're always shopping it. If you're a new collector, it is exciting. I can bring home a bunch of dollar albums. And even those have been around that, hey, I can at least listen to this. For $1, I can try anything. I can experiment. Chances are there may be some disappointment in your life with it, but it doesn't kill you.
Well, stop grabbing the Streisand.
Yes.
I'm kidding.
You had a lot of
Barbra
Judy
Streisand.
Collins, too.
Yes.
Oh, my God.
So, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see if this trend continues. I mentioned going to Canada back in August, and I went to 4 or 5 stores there. No dollar rooms whatsoever. There was one, everything started at 5. There was another, everything started at 10. Stuff like you said, you see all over the place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it definitely is more of the trend that is out there. It's less and less. I think stores just don't want to deal with it anymore. To your point, it does take up space because it sits for a long time. And eventually, you have these albums that, no, they're just not going to be loved.
No.
And I don't care, with the is there an aisle of misfit albums that they can be sent to? It's the Christmas season. Ship them there.
Yeah. I've got one other quick story. A customer of ours about a year or so ago talked about a record store in the Detroit area that they'd gone to. And there was a dollar room where they were picking some stuff up for $1. But as this person gathered up a handful of records from the dollar room and took them up to pay, the record store owner at the counter said, oh, well, this wasn't supposed to be in there. Oh, this wasn't supposed to be. Oh, this wasn't. And then at the counter changed the price of these dollar room records to $5, $10,
Wow.
$12 or so. And the customer, to his credit, said, well, then, take them back. If you're going to do that to me, I don't want these.
Yeah.
But he said he did find, and the owner, for whatever reason, bypassed a Gordon Lightfoot bootleg that turned out to be worth $60 or $70 on Discogs, and said, "Well, this is Gordon Lightfoot. Nobody cares." But but that's kind of low, I think, on that side. If you have a dollar room, it's there for a reason. And I also have been known to, in times of I need to put this crate of records somewhere, I'll toss it back there, and then there's something that's not $1. If a customer finds it and it comes up, I say, well, crap, that was supposed to be a $5 record. It's $1. That's right.
It's not the customer's fault unless they purposely went out here and grabbed them. But your dollar room is also, in your store, everything has a sleeve on it except in the dollar room.
Yeah.
Not that you can't pull a sleeve off, but it does right away. It signals something.
And it helps because we're smaller, and most of the time it's just me. So I know if something comes out and I say, wait a minute here, Slick, this isn't a dollar bun record. This is...
You also have a guard dog.
I do. He's passed out right now.
Yeah, he's passed out. But sometimes he's there.
The dude is here, and he's more likely to shed on somebody than he is to say, stop what you're doing there, mister. So what do you think? Should dollar bins stay in record stores? Is there a place for the cheap record in the future of record stores?
Yeah. And do you even, do you care? Do you even shop them, or are you past that stage in life?
For new collectors, I think it's a must.
Yeah.
For, students and the like, it's great. For people who want to relive and maybe they just want some cheap music to throw on in the background, it's great. They're not going anywhere for me. That's just me. Maybe I'm an old fart and getting kind of curmudgeon-y about it, but no, my dollar bin's going to stay where it is.
Well, you still make money off it, so why not?
Not much.
Not much, exactly.
Now,
especially 3 for $1.
Indeed. Now, would you like to listen to this, Mitch Miller?
Yeah, let's do it, man.
You have been listening to two guys talking about records. In this case, two guys talking about cheap records, a vinyl community podcast. As always, we thank you folks for listening. Please be sure to check out our Facebook page. Just search for Two Guys Talking About Records. If you're listening to us on YouTube, check us out on Spotify. If you're listening to us on Spotify, check us out on YouTube. And as always, make sure you're looking for Steve's video page.
Yes, Steve Carlson, Vinyl Community. I had to think what it was. Yes, please.
Weekly content that's always interesting and never boring.
We try.
We try, especially with Cat. You're
Yes.
talking about my guard dog. What about your guard cat?
Yeah, who also sheds. There we go.
Time of year.
Yes.
Well, you folks have a great week, and we will talk to you next time. But this has been Jim, and I'm a record store owner.
And Steve, a record collector.
Thank you much for listening.
Bye.